On a cold, rainy evening in Chicago, Daniel Harper, a highly successful yet deeply lonely CFO, stepped out of his sleek black car and hurried into a nearby grocery store. His life looked perfect from the outside: luxury apartment, high-paying job, respect in the corporate world, but inside, he felt an emptiness he could never quite explain. Every day felt the same: meetings, numbers, silence. As he grabbed a few essentials and made his way to the checkout line, his attention shifted to a young woman standing ahead of him. She looked exhausted, her hair loosely tied, clothes slightly worn, and dark circles under her eyes. In her arms, she held a small baby wrapped in a faded blanket. The baby let out a soft cry, and she gently rocked him, whispering comforting words. When it was her turn, she placed a few items on the counter: some bread, milk, and a can of baby formula. The cashier scanned them quickly and announced the total. The woman froze. She checked her wallet, then her phone, her face slowly turning pale. "I'm sorry," she said softly, her voice shaking. "Can you please return the formula? I don't have enough." The baby began to cry louder, as if sensing her distress. The woman tried to calm him, blinking back tears, clearly embarrassed as a few people in line sighed impatiently. The cashier hesitated, unsure what to say, while the tension in the air grew heavier. Daniel watched everything unfold. At first, he tried to ignore it, like most people would. But something about the scene held him still. Maybe it was the way the woman tried to stay strong despite her situation. Maybe it was the baby's helpless cries. Or maybe it was the sudden realization that while he had everything money could buy, this woman was struggling to afford something so basic. His chest tightened. For a brief moment, Daniel thought about his own life, his empty apartment, his quiet dinners, the lack of any real connection. He had spent years chasing success, believing it would bring happiness. But standing there, watching this woman forced to give up feeding her child, made him question everything. The woman handed the formula back to the cashier with trembling hands. "It's okay," she whispered, though it clearly wasn't. She gathered the remaining items slowly, trying to maintain her composure as the baby continued to cry. That's when Daniel felt something shift inside him. Without fully thinking it through, he stepped forward. "Wait," he said, his voice calm but firm. The woman turned, surprised, her eyes filled with confusion and a hint of fear. The cashier paused, looking at him expectantly. Daniel reached into his wallet, pulling out his card. For the first time in a long while, he wasn't thinking about balance sheets or profit margins. He was thinking about doing the right thing. "Please," he said gently, looking at the cashier, "add the formula back." The woman shook her head immediately. "No, I can't." But Daniel simply gave a reassuring smile, one that carried a warmth he himself hadn't felt in years. In that quiet moment, as rain tapped softly against the store windows, Daniel had no idea that this small decision, this simple act, was about to change not just her life, but his own forever. The woman's eyes filled with disbelief as Daniel handed his card to the cashier. For a moment, she stood frozen, unsure of what to say or do. People in line who had been impatient just seconds ago now watched in silence. The cashier quickly added the baby formula back and completed the purchase. I can't let you do this," the woman said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. She clutched her baby closer, as if trying to shield him from the overwhelming moment. Daniel shook his head gently. "It's okay," he replied, his tone calm and sincere. "Everyone needs a little help sometimes." Tears welled up in her eyes, but this time they weren't from embarrassment, they were from relief. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't know how much this means." Daniel gave a small nod, but instead of walking away like he normally would, he found himself lingering. Something about her quiet strength and dignity stayed with him. He wasn't used to conversations like this, real, human moments that went beyond business deals and formal greetings. "What's your name?" he asked. "Emily," she replied, adjusting the baby in her arms. "And this is Noah." Daniel smiled faintly at the baby, who had now calmed down. "I'm Daniel." There was a brief silence, but it wasn't awkward. It felt different, almost meaningful. "Do you work somewhere, Emily?" Daniel asked carefully, not wanting to sound intrusive. She hesitated before answering. "I used to. I had a job at a small office, but after Noah was born, things got complicated." I couldn't keep up with childcare and expenses. I've been trying to find something stable, but it's been hard. Daniel listened closely. Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of struggle, resilience, and determination. It reminded him of something he had long forgotten, the effort it takes to survive when life isn't handed to you easily. He paused for a moment, thinking. Then, almost unexpectedly, he said, "Would you be open to a job interview?" Emily blinked in surprise. "A job? At my company," Daniel continued. "We have entry-level administrative roles. It's not easy work, but it's stable. And we value people who are willing to try." She looked at him, searching his face as if to make sure this wasn't some kind of misunderstanding. "Why would you do that for me?" Daniel took a quiet breath. That was a question he didn't have a perfect answer to. "Because," he said slowly, "I think you deserve a chance." For a second, Emily couldn't speak. Then she nodded, her eyes shining with a mix of hope and uncertainty. "Yes, I would. Thank you." Daniel reached into his pocket, pulled out a business card, and handed it to her. "Come by this week. Ask for me." She held the card like it was something precious. "I will." As they stepped out of the store, the rain had slowed to a light drizzle. Emily walked away holding her baby and the groceries, but now there was something new in her steps, hope. Daniel stood there for a moment, watching her leave. For the first time in years, the silence in his life didn't feel so heavy. Something had changed. A small act of kindness had opened a door, not just for Emily, but for him too. And deep down, Daniel knew this was only the beginning. A week later, Daniel sat in his glass-walled office, staring at the city skyline. Normally, his mornings were filled with meetings, reports, and tight schedules, but today, his mind kept drifting back to the grocery store, to Emily and her quiet strength. Right on time, there was a soft knock on the door. "Come in," Daniel said. The door opened slowly, and Emily stepped inside, holding a folder tightly against her chest. She looked nervous but determined. Her clothes were simple yet neat, and though she still looked tired, there was a spark of hope in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "Good morning," she said politely. Daniel offered a reassuring smile. "Good morning, Emily. Please, have a seat." As she sat down, he noticed how carefully she carried herself, as if afraid of making a mistake. It was a feeling he remembered from his early days, long before success had built walls around him. They began the interview, but it didn't feel like a typical corporate conversation. Emily spoke honestly about her past job, her struggles after becoming a single mother, and her determination to build a better future for her son, Noah. She didn't try to impress with big words, she simply told the truth. And that's what impressed Daniel the most. By the end of the conversation, Daniel didn't need more time to decide. "You're hired," he said calmly. Emily's eyes widened in shock. "Really?" "Yes," Daniel nodded. "You'll start on Monday. We'll make sure you get the training you need." For a moment, Emily couldn't speak. Then tears filled her eyes again, but this time, they carried gratitude and relief. "Thank you, I won't let you down," she said, her voice full of emotion. "I believe you won't," Daniel replied. Over the next few weeks, Emily adapted quickly to her new role. She worked hard, stayed late when needed, and never complained. Slowly, she began to smile more. Her confidence grew, and her life started to stabilize. Daniel noticed the change, not just in her, but in himself too. He found himself more engaged at work, more present in conversations, and less consumed by numbers alone. He started checking in on his team, learning about their lives, and creating a more supportive environment. The office, once cold and strictly professional, began to feel more human. One afternoon, Emily knocked on his door again. "Come in," Daniel said. She stepped inside, this time with a gentle smile. "I just wanted to say thank you, again. Things are better now. I can take care of Noah without feeling like everything is falling apart." Daniel leaned back in his chair, a quiet sense of fulfillment settling in his chest. "You did the hard work, Emily." She shook her head softly. "Maybe, but you gave me the chance." After she left, Daniel looked out at the city once more. The same skyline, the same buildings, but everything felt different now. He realized something important. Success wasn't just about money or titles. It was about impact, about showing up for someone when it mattered most. That rainy evening at the grocery store had seemed like a small moment. But it had changed two lives forever.